want a few good voters, educated ones. What demographics would you tap to educate more and why? Team Mattox.
What I can speak to is I know what Claude has done in the past, and that is hold forums every time he can, all over in his district, but not only in his district. When there is a citywide issue that he has to vote on, going to the people, educating them on the proposal in front of them, and listening to them, finding out what it is they believe. As a matter of fact, Claude first got his start as a neighborhood activist, and when I first met him, he was not on the council, and he had come to talk to me on behalf of Cricket Pavilion at the time. And he was so dedicated in that part of the city, in Maryville, that I can't even tell you how many meetings he led and educated people on. That was before he was on city council. As a result, he has had forum after forum, whether it's pool safety, whether it's public safety, whether it's schools, neighborhoods, job creation, and that's how Councilman Mattox intends to educate voters. It's what he's already done in the past.
Wes Gullet?
I think we're talking about education, right? In
Yes.
terms of what can we do with our schools and how
No,
can we
we're talking about educating the voters.
educating voters.
Yeah. And what
Well,
demographics would you tap to educate voters?
Here's my goal. I have actually show up at the events, and I go to every single one I get invited to. And it is important to do that because I was at a church on Friday night, African American church in South Phoenix, where I got to speak to the congregation. It was one of the honors of my life. And why was it? Because we were talking about bringing people together, unity. And we were talking about shared and common goals that we all have. And that's how you make the city better. We go to everything that we're invited to, and we tell people the truth about what we stand for. And when I go and talk, we're going to be Thursday night, we're going to be in the Democrat district meeting. And I'm going to talk about the same things we're talking about here tonight, which is cutting the cost of government, reducing the size of government, and doing it together. And if we do that, and we do it consistently, and we do it wherever we're invited, I think we're going to have a good opportunity to reach out to the voters. Since only 20% are going to vote, it shouldn't be that hard, right?
Jennifer Wright, do you have a demographics you have to educate?
Yes, my demographics, the 30-somethings, the young families. I went out to lunch today with two of my best friends from law school, and even though I'm running for mayor, they're like, I'm just not into politics. You know, these are the people that just don't get what's going on. They're dear friends of mine, but this is the age group, the 30-year-olds, the 40-year-olds, the ones with families that are ignoring the problems because they're focusing, you know, on their families, which is important, but we're not going to have a city left if my age group doesn't wake up and smell the coffee. And that's what we need to tap into. I believe that sometimes at these events we end up preaching to the choir, and we need to go out into new areas and new people and new places to discuss what's going on. One of the things I've been doing for the last year and a half is make sure that people are getting political perspectives from my Facebook account. It's hitting a younger demographic to let people know what's going on, both on a local, national level. Speaking to experience, one of my first jobs back in Arizona, I left for college for a short while and a few years in Oregon, and my first job back was working for an organization called the Community Forum. And what they did is bring together community groups and bring together city leaders to develop innovative solutions. So I did a lot of that work in developing with groups and organizations, and we could pull into a different demographic group if we just wake them up and make them help them understand what's going on.
Peggy, Nealy?
Well, something that I've taught all of my life is that our young teenagers and children need to vote. They need to vote in all the elections, including municipality votes. And I think it's really important that we get out and we get those younger kids to vote. And I truly believe if you look at the demographics that vote in Phoenix, they're in between all of us. About 61 years old is the age. And so we do make some points, but what we need to do is make the city more accessible and more transparent, make it easier for people to get the information, to be able to find out what's going on, and we're not there. A lot of folks that are there at City Hall would prefer that we have less people listening in. Transparency means that you're able to hear and see what's going on. So I'm going to tell you, I would go for the younger voter, and I want to make sure that we continue to let our young generations know why it's so important to vote in all elections, state, federal, and municipalities. Thank you.
In areas with communist economic systems, the government is the creator of jobs. In a free market economy, it is privately owned businesses that is the creator of jobs. Should the government create jobs, or is the government an impediment to job creation and thus should be minimized? Jennifer Wright.
I think I said in my opening statement that the government is an impediment, on the most part, to job growth and creation, especially when they get their tentacles involved into every aspect of the small business life. For the past decade, I've been working in policy work, working with organizations such as the Institute for Justice and the Goldwater Institute. And one of their primary objectives is an issue called economic liberty. That sounds kind of a foreign term, but basically what it means is that you, as an individual, have the right to pursue the career that you're passionate about. That there shouldn't be government roadblocks and barriers to enter into the market. I discussed a little bit earlier about my son who has lemonade stands. And I just want to kind of detail out what laws he's breaking. First of all, he needs to have a business license. There's no business license in the city of Phoenix that allows for a lemonade stand in front of your house. Second of all, he needs to have a food handler's permit. Third, we're going to need to have our kitchen inspected to make sure it meets all the regulatory requirements. We're going to have to get a sales tax license. We're going to have to, he has an employee, namely his little brother, that he's going to have to fill out all the federal forms for and get an EIN. And that's just to run a lemonade stand. So this is where the government is getting over-involved so that businesses are being run out of business, that businesses are going out of business because they can't keep up with the corporate competitors that have law firms that are doing all the heavy work for them. Small mom and pops can't do that.
Ross Gullet.
There is no question in my 7-point plan, I talk a lot about getting government out of the way of small business. That we've got to lower the fees, we've got to lower the rates, we've got to cut those costs, we have to eliminate red tape. The city council has a proposal that has been sitting in front of the city council for 5 months that has not been acted on, to eliminate some red tape, to make it easier for small businesses to grow, to eliminate some requirements so that architects and engineers can pre-certify things. And it's not been voted on yet. It's maybe going to be voted on June 1st. They've had this package in front of them for 5 months. In the meantime, I had to pay $75 for a permit to get a new hot water heater. It's a ridiculous thing. I had a licensed contractor come out, put it in. I've got 3 teenage girls, and they didn't have any use for I've got a campaign, we need hot water right now. So I paid this guy, and I had to pay this permit fee. Well, that's one of the things that's going to be eliminated. I had to pay it because the city council has been sitting on it for 5 months. There's no sense of urgency. There's nothing, and we've got to have a sense of urgency when we go into red tape. One of the things I'm going to do is propose that we sunset every ordinance that we adopt, so that every ordinance going forward is sunset. And it's in sunset in a 4-year period so that we can vote on it again, so the councils have to vote over and over on these ordinances that get passed.
Peggy Nealy.
Well, actually, we were given a presentation in April about the streamlining of processes. And really, Phoenix will be one of the first cities to have a streamlined processes for being able to pull permits. If you bring to the window plans that have been approved by engineers and architects that have stamped off, that are approved, you'll be able to walk away and not have to have the city go through your plans. It is something that's not happening anywhere in this state. Now, there were some things that we needed to make sure that we could still do. So yes, it won't happen until June, but I'm pretty proud of some of the streamlining that this council's done. And, you know, sometimes we need to remember safety of our community needs to be thought out. We need to also make sure that we're letting the public know what we're doing and get feedback. I believe that government can work faster, but I also believe that we need to also be good stewards and make sure that we are putting out something that's not going to have a burden on others, unforeseen circumstances. Thank you.
Team Mattox?
Thank you, Ms. Nealy. Took the words right out of my mouth. It is something we're very, very proud of on this process that is being streamlined. And Mr. Gullet is correct, that won't be on until the June 1st agenda. But there, as I know Mr. Gullet knows, because he has certainly been involved in having conversations with us in his business, lobbying us for certain things that were important to him. Sometimes somebody will bring up an issue and you might need to take an extra 2 weeks on it to make sure that you have it right. This is big. Ms. Nealy is right. We're one of the few cities that will be doing this in the United States. If there's anything Mr. Mattox has heard loud and clear, it is we do need to streamline it, that we need to make it easier. And that is why career jobs is so important to him. What is career job creation? That is, it's something, remember the times when our parents were in a job and they were in that job forever. It was something that you could count on. It's more than a minimum wage type of job. And what the city is, what government is realizing is we do need to get out of the way and let the private sector do what they're going to do. What we can do is to make sure that the policies that are in place are streamlined, so it's easier, whether it's a small business assistance office, whether it's regional participation, so we don't have cities competing with each other.
I just want to be clear, so you think that the government should step out of the way, that it's an impediment to job creations?
What Mr. Maddox, I have to be careful for my own, what I know Mr. Maddox has felt passionate about is streamlining. As far as stepping away, there are times that you need government to be involved so that you can, in fact, streamline it. Health, safety, there are all types of issues. I don't know how long you want me to talk about that, but for instance, when I did some relief work in Indonesia, right after the tsunami hit, they lost everything. And for the first time, I understood the importance of building codes. As it was a place of 120,000, and only 40,000 people lived, they had no building codes. They had nothing like that. I came back to Phoenix to say, I get it. We don't need all this regulation, but some of it is important when it comes to the health and safety. What I know Councilman Mattox feels strongly about is it should be minimal.
Okay. Wes Gullet, congratulations, you won the election. Who is your first meeting with, and what's your agenda?
Well, my first meeting is going to be with y'all, because I'm going to invite you to the victory, or to the inauguration party. I want you to be at my inauguration. I want you to be there to hear what I have to say about how we're going to streamline this government, how we're going to fundamentally change it, and how, and we're going to have cookies and coffee afterwards. And then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to sit down with the city manager. And one of the things that I work for the Cardinals football team. I have for a number of years as a consultant, not as a lobbyist, but as a consultant. And in that role, when we start a football season, we have 2-a-day practices. The guys get back in shape. What I want to do with the city manager is have 4-a-day meetings. So those meetings are going to be nonstop. We're going to become best friends, because I'm going to be saying, look, here's what the city of Phoenix electorate said. They said they wanted fundamental change. And how are we going to get it? Here's what I think. We need to cut red tape. We need to lower costs. We need to lower the cost of government. We need to lower the cost to starting small businesses and expanding them. And we need to grow this economy, and we need to get it going today. And we're going to have those meetings, and we're going to have those meetings, and we're going to have those meetings, and we're going to make progress, and we're going to be successful. And that is, those 4 days, I can promise you we're going to do that.
Team Mattox, who would you have at your first meeting, and who would you invite? What's the agenda?
I would the same.
Okay. Jennifer Wright.
The first meeting I'd like to have is to bring in leaders, either former, current, CEOs, CFOs of major corporations, and talk to them about how we can get private enterprise ideas into the city government, how we can make the city government less onerous, how we can make it more cost efficient. Because let's think about it. CEOs, CFOs, they've got to report line item budgets before they happen and after they happen each year. The one that's online now tells us what happened last year. There's nothing about what's being proposed today, so you have to connect all the dots. So that's not very effective to me. But what we need to do is make sure that we're getting ideas from the private industry. I heard that Wes Gullet just mentioned talking about 4-a-day meetings. How many of you have worked in a company, and how useful are meetings after meetings after meetings after meetings? It's not about just meeting. It's not about just commissioning studies. It's about taking action. And we can have meetings, but the people I'd like to get involved in those meetings are the people who know how to run a business, who know how to keep a company profitable, and can help get Phoenix out of the red. And regarding studies, we're paying consultants hundreds of thousands of dollars to do studies, when I'd be willing to bet we could get organizations and individuals who are committed to the growth of Phoenix that have no personal agenda to do those studies for next to nothing.
Well, first off, I would tell you I wouldn't wait until I was inaugurated. I would start September 1. And I would start meeting with people and making a plan of what we're going to do. As far as the city manager, I think as having been on the council, I can find my way to my office, I can find the other people's offices. But we do need to have outreach with you guys. I've been doing a lot of listening to a lot of you. And we need to make sure where we go needs to look like what you want from the city you want. We can have the Phoenix we want. I will continue the meetings I've had with CFOs and CEOs up in my district. I will just expand it citywide. I'll make sure that we have their input, but we currently have a lot of CFOs and CEOs that are serving on efficiency studies. I just think we need to tell them where we need to get. We need to control our budget. We need to find a way to have more jobs. And we want to make sure that people understand what we're doing and have more transparency. I'll work on that every day. I'll work hard to make sure that we get the economy we want, the Phoenix we want. Thank you.
Glendale has had its issues with a section of land that is identified as Native American land to possibly build another casino. If that land were in Phoenix, would you fight for or against the building of a casino, and why? Jennifer Wright.
I'm taking a second to think about that because I think it's an important question to really ponder. Let's talk about what Indian land is. They're a sovereign nation, and they may be within city boundaries. And while we may want to dictate onto sovereign nations how they operate, we need to think about, do we allow the federal government to dictate onto Phoenix how we operate? Should we allow the federal government to dictate how we operate? I would want to look at and carefully explore the idea of casinos within the city, because there is a problem with gambling, with people who have addiction issues, and face those problems head on. But I don't think we can dictate necessarily to the sovereign nation what's to be done, but we need to open the discussion. We need to find out what we can do to prevent addiction problems, and that's a focus. I work in family law, and I've seen families fall apart from gambling addiction. And that's a problem. And that's a problem that if we were to bring it to the city center, that we could face. So we need to see how we can work with the tribe to maybe come out with another business idea or another solution. But at the end of the day, it's their land, but we need to be involved with them to try to make it workable for them and workable for us.
Team Mattox, would you fight for or against a casino in Phoenix?
I have to pass, I don't know how Claude feels on that.
Wes Gullet, how about you? Would you fight for or against a casino?
Well, we may have that opportunity because they may want to put a casino in at the racetrack. And the racetrack's right in the middle of Phoenix, Turf Paradise. And so that issue may be more real than we think. And so we better be willing to go down to the legislature and have that conversation and work with people like Senator McComish and be able to talk about the impacts of that as they come ahead, because it could be coming. Casinos are a real possibility, and they could come forward. So what we need to do is we need to have that conversation, one with the neighborhood, two with our legislators, and begin the process of thinking about how that would impact things. Because people talk about flippantly, often, about racinos can raise all kinds of money to help balance the budget. And if that's the case, guess where the racino is going to be? It's going to be in Phoenix. If it was an Indian tribe, the thing in Glendale, shame on Glendale for trying to overlay and do all this stuff to kill something that's not in their city right now. And I don't think any of us private property rights people would want a city annexing us and putting all kinds of restrictions on our private property if we owned that. And just because it's an Indian tribe, I don't know about that. But the casino in Phoenix is a real issue, and we need to be ready for it.
Peggy Nealy?
Well, first off, I think we have to look at what its economic impact would be on us. If you look at some of the casinos that are here in the valley, anything that has a hotel, it takes away from the tax base that might go to the city. The same thing goes with over at up against Scottsdale. There's a few of those casinos that take away. I probably wouldn't actively support a casino going into Phoenix. I think Mr. Gullet probably has more experience on bringing those into downtowns, maybe like in Sacramento or somewhere, so he would probably be supportive of that. But I'm not. I'm going to talk to the neighbors, I'm going to find out what works, and I'm going to make sure that we are looking after our budget and looking after our neighbors before we make any decision.
Transparency in government is essential to accountability. What steps will you take to make Phoenix government expenditures fully transparent? Team Mattox.
I'm going to have to pass on that.
Peggy Nealy?
First and foremost, we need to go to an internet system that meets 2011. You need to be able to know what's happening at City Hall. Those of you that have tried to get information probably spend hours online. We put everything in a PDF format that you have to open up. If you want to know what our record is in voting, you may spend hours doing that. There's something wrong with that. It should be real time. We should have streaming information on subcommittee meetings, on our council meetings. We need to act like people are listening in. A lot of folks down there don't want you to listen in. We need to make it as convenient as possible. We need to find a way to hear from you. We need to do that, and when we do that, we'll also get the younger folks. I believe in full transparency. We do not have that today, and people are fighting against that happening.
Wes Gullet?
There is no doubt that the city of Phoenix is opaque. It's not transparent, it's opaque. We can't tell, we can't tell about this budget thing. We just went through this budget fiasco. We can't tell about, I've been opposed to this road to nowhere up in the north side, the far north side, where they're building a $40 million road that's not going to connect to the 303. It's going to dump out on 23rd Avenue. It doesn't make any sense. I've been trying to figure it out, and I can't because it's opaque. There are no public records. There are no public actions. There's no public meetings that people have had to make these decisions. And then they say, oh, we've planned this in 2006, before they even had determined where the 303 was going to go. We are building a road that doesn't connect to the 303 with county freeway money that is supposed, the number one priority is connectivity. It doesn't make any sense. We can't have, and when Mrs. Nealy has made a lot of innuendos about me and my business, but she was at the groundbreaking for this road to nowhere. I don't understand where all the transparency has been for the last 10 years. It seems to have been hiding.
Jennifer Wright?
I wrote my first computer program at the age of 7 on one of the first Apple computers. I've been developing database systems and programs and providing information since I was just about my boy's age. And that gives me 30 years of experience of how to develop technology solutions to complex problems. I was a business analyst and then later became director at a financial services company where my title was Director of Vision 2020. What that was to bring about technology solutions to the financial services industry. This was almost a decade ago when internet technology was still kind of new. And I helped design, develop, and test the programs that were created on that. And as director, I was also very responsible for the budget of that area in a major corporation. So what would I do? I would start looking at technology solutions. There's already other states and cities that are implementing these where you have instantaneous access to all expenditures, not just reports or this or that, but you can actually go in and click on and see what was spent by the city today, what was spent by the city yesterday. I have the experience in developing computer systems. I have the experience in developing efficiencies, and I will bring that experience to the mayor's office.
Each candidate will now give their closing remarks and/or rebuttals. Wes Gullet. 2 minutes. 2 minutes.
Don't start yet. Here we go. I'll try and hurry. Here's what we need to do. We need to elect somebody who's got a new, fresh perspective, who hasn't been on the city council for the last 10 years. We need some fresh eyes on this deal. I've got a lot of experience. I've worked as a lobbyist. I have. It's about 10% of my job. The other 90% of my job is being a strategic planner, a problem solver. That's what I bring to this, is solving problems that are complicated. And we have a very complicated problem in the city of Phoenix that we need to fix. And that's going to be my commitment. If I wanted to be a lobbyist, I'd stay working what I'm doing. I'm giving that up to be a public servant to fix this problem. Because I know that I can. And I know that I'm not perfect. But I know that if I try hard and use all the experience that I've gained from being chief of staff to a governor, to a small businessman, to a strategic planner, we can bring a strategic vision to this community that is going to knock your socks off. Not only are we going to reform government and fundamentally change it, but we're also going to use the tools that we have available to us to create opportunity, to create jobs by planning for the future. That's what we need to do. We need to plan for our future so that we have a vibrant future so guys like Colin will come home. This young man came home to a good job. Now, we need all of our people to come home to a good job. We want to be attracting young people from all across the country who are smart and who are well educated, and then the jobs are going to follow them. But if we don't have a vision, and we don't fundamentally change the way we're doing business, we won't be successful. I really would appreciate you coming tonight, and I would appreciate your support on August 30th. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to close with telling you a little bit about who I am. I'm Peggy Nealy. I've been a Republican my adult life. And as a Republican, I believe in partisan races that you follow your party. And I'll tell you that I am the only candidate in this race that endorsed our current governor, Jan Brewer. Why? Because she worked hard. She took on the issues that we needed to change this state. She knew that she had to deal with a budget issue. She did that. She knew that we had to deal with immigration, and she brought us a resolve to that. She works hard. Those are some of the basic things that I come from. Small town, you work hard, your word is your bond, and you leave a place better than you found it. I just want to say that I have the leadership to take this city forward. We will look at the issues that are plaguing us currently. I will again tell you that I believe that Sal DeCiccio has brought to light the things we need to work on. And I have been there with him, not voting on the food tax, not voting on the budget, and as I said, I would not have been supportive of the budget this year. So I commend him for the hard work he's done. But now we need to find the solutions and we need to put them to work. And I can tell you, I have the ability to do that. I just want to say that some have said that, I know that we've talked about playbooks. This is a transparency book for the road to nowhere. The Road to Nowhere. This book has 80 different types of meetings that were held, including one as a commissioner that voted on it, Mr. Gullet. So I thank you. Get informed, look at my policies, and I would ask you for your vote for me. Thank you.
Mattox. You don't look like a Claude.
And I thank you for your patience with me tonight. I'm here to just tell you, I wouldn't be here if I didn't believe in Claude so much. Claude's focus is he wants to be your voice. He's not this arrogant politician. Claude is who he is. He's never pretended to be anybody else. He has been the backbone of neighborhoods for as long as I've known him. He believes in quality schools, career jobs, and he has the experience to do it. And one last thing I wanted to touch on, because this is a women's forum. As women, we need to get involved in issues, not only the type of things we talked about today, but issues that we face every single day. Do you know that violence against women is the #1 reason that women are murdered in the United States? Do you know that we have a terrible problem with children who are being prostituted? The average age of a prostitute is 13 years old. They're being forced into this. I tell you this because my friend Councilman Mattox has been as passionate about this as I am. And today in the Public Safety Subcommittee, he moved forward a partnership with ASU, the Sandra Day O'Connor Law School, and the Diane Howley Center for Family Justice. It's going to be on the 3rd floor of the already existing Family Advocacy Center so that these victims who have just had the rug pulled out of them actually have the opportunity for legal counsel at no cost. Groups in there is going to be the Family Violence Clinic, Medical Legal Partnership, the Avon Economic Empowerment Program, because we believe it's important not just to put a Band-Aid on something, but to also enable them to be able to go out and make a living. I bring this up because I haven't heard this issue mentioned tonight, and that is something I'd ask you to look at in these candidates. Find out what are their issues when it comes to women, their safety, and family. Thank you so much. God bless you.
If you want a crash course in politics, become a candidate. I'm going to be really honest and frank here. I was asleep at the wheel for a long time. I was asleep at the wheel like most people in my age group. I was working on policy work and attempting to make changes from behind the scenes, and I've seen some not so veiled accusations. Lifelong Republican? No, I'm not. Core Republican values from day one? Absolutely. There was a period of my life when we had big government Republicans, and those were the people I saw as the leaders in our communities and the Republicans in our communities. And the core principles of Republicanism, the core principles of the Tea Party groups is small, limited government. And that's why, as mayor, I will be focused on jobs and opportunities. And that doesn't mean, let's see, we've talked about streamlining the permitting process. Who does that help? Developers. Who are the donors to some of my candidates that are talking about streamlining the permitting process for these buildings? Developers. We heard a little bit about education. I know that's all over Claude Mattox's signs. I've been a huge proponent of education issues, and as mayor, I wish I could tackle that. But unfortunately, that's part of the school superintendent's responsibility. I can help develop community programs at the community centers, and I think we need to do more of that. But simply talking about improving education within the school systems, as mayor, I can't do that. So you can look at my history on school choice issues. As a matter of fact, I started my education at Marquette University as an education major. I was planning on becoming a teacher. I saw firsthand the schools there. So anyway, jobs and opportunities, safety and security, meaning that we keep essential city services essential and not use police officers and firefighters as on the chopping block. And finally, fiscal responsibility. I need your vote on August 30th. We can take back the city with your help. Thank you.
Thank you very much for sharing your visions, your plans, and your evening with us tonight. The candidates will be available for a few minutes after the meeting at the back of the room. Don't forget to introduce yourself to Gabby in the back and pick up some jewelry for yourself, a graduate, or your favorite moderator.
I'll be around to cover the next one.
I guess nobody wants to take home $100 from the 50-50 raffle. You have to be present to win. Still want to buy tickets? I think we close the... We're going to draw the 50-50 raffle, but please continue shopping.
They weren't broadcasting.